Hello, seventh grade. Well, welcome back to another week, and we're continuing in chapter 16, which is a chapter on invertebrates. Well, I want to let you know that we're going to be having a test on Friday, so be ready on that. It's going to be chapter 16. We're actually getting close to the end of the chapter now with the main content, but there's a couple what's called facet sections that we're going to go back and take a closer look at too. But Friday, that's the day. So have that on your calendar and be ready. It's going to be an open book test, and it's going to work just like last time. All right, so today we are on page 294 in your book. So if you have your book, flip it open, 294. This is section 16C, and this title of the section is Echinoderms. Echinoderms. Now, the most famous member of echinoderms is the starfish. Now, we call it starfish. The more precise name is actually the sea star. But we want to take a close look at this creature. It's a very amazing creature. One of the interesting things about starfish is that they have what's called radial symmetry. Now, we've mentioned symmetry before in this part of the book, but do you remember the difference between radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry? What does bi mean? Bi means two. So, for instance, you have bilateral symmetry. Somebody could split you down the middle, and there would be a distinguishable left half and right half. Okay, that's bilateral symmetry. However, a starfish is one of those animals that has radial symmetry. When I hear the word radial, I think of a tire, a radial tire. So a radial symmetry means that no matter what way you cut it in half, each side is like the other half. You think about a starfish. If you cut it in half, you could take it and cut it this way, and these two sides would look alike. You could cut it this way, and these two sides would look alike. It doesn't matter how you cut it. Now, that's not true for us. If you cut us at the waist, the two halves are not the same. The head half and the feet half, very different. But radial symmetry means no matter how you cut it, each half will be identical. Okay, so I have several things lined up to show you. So I'm going to present my screen to you. All right, you should be able to see my screen now. So, I hope so. There we go. All right, so first let's take a look at this. All right, so I'm going to tell you more about the sea fish, or as we will refer to it, the sea star. Okay. Sometimes it's also called the asteroidea. All right, so the sea star, also called starfish, is any marine invertebrate of the class Asteroidea. It's a mouthful, which is the phylum Echinodermata, having rays or arms surrounding an indistinct, that means there's not a whole lot you can tell about it, central disc. But despite their older common name, starfish, these are not fish. The roughly 1,600 living species of sea stars occurs in all oceans. The northern Pacific has the greatest variety. Most species are between 20 to 30 centimeters. Now, if we're thinking, that's metric. If we're thinking English measurements, that's about 8 to 12 inches. And that's how far they are across. Now, some are only 1 centimeter across. How tiny is that? That's less than half an inch. Others can be as much as 65 centimeters. That's 25 inches across. That's over 2 feet across. Let's see. Those are the biggest ones. That's not the ordinary ones. All right. Now, sea star arms, typically 5 in number, are hollow and, like the disc, covered with short spines and pincer-like organs. On the lower side are grooves with rows of tube feet, which may be sucker-tipped or pointed. A sea star can lose 1 or more arms and grow new ones. Its tube feet enable it to creep in any direction. Right. And also cling to steep surfaces. I'll take a look at this map. that you see on your screen. All right, notice what this says at the bottom. It says, check out where sea stars live. And then if you look on the map, do you see this yellow square and what it says next to it? It says where sea stars live. In other words, everywhere that you see yellow is where sea stars live. What do you notice? They live almost everywhere, right? Now, when you see some areas like the Great Lakes in North America, well, they don't live there. But in all these oceans, you find these sea stars. It's quite amazing. All right, let me go back up to this. All right, go to another part of this slideshow here. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Primitive. All right. No. So there's, basic sea stars. They feed by sweeping organic particles that collect along the arm grooves into the mouth on the underside of the disc. Some forms of sea stars either what's called evert or turn outward the stomach upon the prey. So, for instance, they'll crawl over a mollusk or a polyp or something like that, and they can actually extend their stomach inside the crack to get into it and actually digest it from the inside. Or they can swallow the prey whole. Okay. And the internal skeleton of the sea star consists of limy plates. Respiration, that's breathing, remember, usually is through skin structures. Light-sensitive spots occur at the tips of the arm. Now, what about reproduction? Well, sea star reproduction typically is heterosexual, but hermaphroditism, reproductive organs of both sexes in one animal, if it's a hermaphrodite, that can occur. And a few sea stars reproduce asexually, that means just with themselves, by division of the body, fragmentation. That's what that's called. All right, some brood their eggs and young, and non-brooders may release into the water as many as 2.5 million eggs at a time. Sea stars belong to 3 different orders. Edged sea stars have distinct marginal plates and therefore tend to be rigid. Members of the order have suction tube feet, and the anus may be lacking. Most of the deep sea stars belong to that order, and many are burrowers. They dig into the ground. There's one called Albatrositer richardi. Albatross is a giant bird, so it basically means large. So this particular type has been taken at the depth of over 6,000 meters deep. That's almost 20,000 feet deep, near the Cape Verde Islands. The mud star, which is about 10 centimeters or 4 inches across, has blunt, short arms and a broad yellow disc, and it's abundant worldwide on mud bottoms of the northern coasts. A number of sea stars distributed throughout the northern hemisphere have longer, more pointed, spine-fringed arms. The largest West Indies star is something like 50 centimeters or 20 inches across. Okay, members of the Indo-Pacific genus Lynchia can grow a new individual from a small piece of a single arm. Spiny sea stars, order Spunulosa, typically have clusters of spines. They have suction tube feet, but rarely do they have the pedicellari, the little suctions on the very bottom, a particular type. A common example in the stony bottom European waters is something called a gibbous starlet. The sea bat, another type, usually has webbed arms, and it's common from Alaska to Mexico. Sun stars of the genera Crossiter and Solister are found in northern waters. They have numerous short rays and a broad, often sunburst pattern disc. All right, so there's just lots of kinds of these. All right, so I want to show you in particular some videos. Okay, so let me click over to it. All right, let's see, it's not the one. Okay, so all right, one sec while I line these things up. I have several, so all right, so let's take a look at this one here. I'm not going to full screen it just because I'm afraid it would mess. I don't know. I'll try it. Let's see. Hopefully it'll work. Sometimes when I go full screen, it messes with some things. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. All right, so here we see one. A starfish can move in any direction with any one of its arms in the lead. On the underside of the starfish are rows of movable projections called tube feet. The tube feet are slender tubes that extend as water is pumped into them. You can see him using those right now to move. You can see them on the bottom. Here's another view. Water enters through a sieve plate in the starfish's skin and is forced by muscles into each foot. Sort of like blowing up a water balloon. Each little foot is like a tiny water balloon. And the water extends the length of the cavity of the tube foot. You can see them working here. How they grab on, each one suctions. At the tip of each tube foot is a small suction cup which can be attached to objects. It's like hundreds of little vacuum cleaners being used to move the creature along. Amazing the design we see in this, and such a variety of design. Tube feet enable the starfish to grasp and manipulate prey and to cling to rocks and other hard surfaces as it creeps along. All right, so there's one fascinating creature for you. All right, now let me minimize that and go to this. I want to show you a different video of a different aspect. Let me find it here. Here we go. All right, let me enlarge it so you can see it very well. Now on this one, I'm going to show you, you're going to see a starfish's tube feet pry open a mussel's shell and then extrude or put out its stomach into the mussel itself, which is one of the ways that this fascinating creature eat. So starfish prey upon shellfish and coral polyps and even other starfish. It finds its meal here, and it starts slowly wrapping its arm around a mussel. Now, we don't mean muscle in your body. It humps its body over the mussel and attaches its tube feet to the mussel's shell, pulling and pulling until the mussel weakens. See, it's tugging on it. As the shells separate, the starfish opens its mouth and extrudes its stomach onto the mussel. The prey is partially digested. Look at that. The stomach is then retracted and digestion is completed. The indigestible mussel shell is discarded. Okay, all right, good. Now let me exit out of that. Okay, now let's see. I want to go to a different one. All right, so for this one, we're going to be looking at sea star reproduction from egg and sperm released and fertilization to zooplankton embryos and larvae. All right, so let me enlarge this one so you can see. So now we're focusing on the reproduction of the starfish. Okay, go. All right, some starfish reproduce by releasing their eggs directly into seawater. About the time the eggs are released by female sea stars, males release their sperm. A large male starfish like this one will fill the water with billions of sperm cells. When sperm cells come together with the eggs are fertilized and begin to divide. We're looking at things very microscopically. The resulting embryos become part of zooplankton, and like all members of the zooplankton, sea star embryos drift with the currents, feeding, growing. Eventually, they all develop into larvae, which in time return to the seafloor and become starfish. Okay, good deal. Now, all right, I believe that is all of those kind of videos I wanted to show you. Let me check here. Let's see, did I show this one? Yes, I did. Okay, good. So now what I want to do is I want to zoom in and let you see a dissection of a starfish. So I'm going to enlarge this video, and we're going to take a look at starfish dissection. All right, now remember, when you hear the word adaptation, being adapting to something, that's a secular way of thinking. That's that worldview that says it used to be something else, but evolution caused it to adapt and become something else, as if evolution has a mind and knows where it wants to go. No, it's not adaptations, it's specifics of God's creation. We see here intellectual design. So when you hear adaptation, think, no, that's not something that this creature adapted on its own. No, this is an intricate, intelligent design by a very intelligent creator. So there's going to be volume to this one. Let's take a look at this starfish dissection.
You should be able to 1. Name the organs of the starfish. 2. Identify the features that serve as adaptations for starfish. And 3. Describe the correct procedure for dissecting a starfish. Starfish are currently facing a number of natural and man-made threats that are decreasing their numbers. For this lab, instead of each student dissecting a starfish, you'll watch this video dissection. You'll then use this information to answer your lab questions. Starfish, or sea stars, are radially symmetric marine invertebrates in the phylum Echinodermata. These organisms display the deuterostrum pattern of development and are ecologically crucial keystone species. The starfish has a spiny surface known as the endoskeleton, a hard structure composed of calcium-rich plates. The protruding white spines actually project through a thin layer of epidural skin that covers the endoskeleton. The body of the starfish has an aboral, or top side, and an oral, or bottom side. The central disc and madreporites are found on the surface of the aboral side. The mouth can be found on the oral side. It can be seen in the middle of the central disc and will be surrounded by spines. Notice the ambulacral grooves that extend from the mouth to the tip of each arm. Observe the suction cup-like projections known as tube feet, which line these grooves. Proceeding one arm at a time, the tips of the arms are cut off, and the sides of the arm are cut toward the central disc. The cuts are made as close to the skin as possible. Notice that the skin is lifted as it is cut, and the point of the scissors is used. This allows for the removal of the flap, or aboral surface tissue. The flap is cut away to reveal the internal organs. This is repeated for the other two arms. Next, the central disc is removed, and care is taken not to remove or damage the madreporite. The cuts are just to the inside of the madreporite. At this point, most of the aboral surface is removed from the body. In one of the arms, observe the pyloric cecum, which is seen as brown material just under the skin. These are digestive glands that secrete enzymes that break down food and store nutrients. When the pyloric cecum is removed, it exposes the gonads. These structures are involved in sexual reproduction and appear to be clustered and arranged like grapes. In another arm, both the pyloric cecum and the gonads are removed. Observe the ampullae of the tube feet, which line the ambulacral ridge. These appear jelly-like, or like small bulbs which connect with a podium of the tube feet. Water enters the porous plate structure known as the madreporite. Observe the stone canal, a small tube that extends from the madreporite and leads to a series of canals, first of which is the ring canal. Identify the ring canal which runs around the central disc. Next, observe how the radial canals extend from the ring canal. The radial canals are located under the ambulacral ridge. The radial canals feed into the ampullae, which are connected to the tube feet. The path of water through the madreporite, stone canal, radial canal, ampullae, and tube feet can be easily traced. This system of ducts is referred to as the water vascular system and allows for the starfish to move and feed. Water from the radial canal fills the ampullae. When ampullae are squeezed, they push water into the tube feet, which are directly connected to the ampullae. The water vascular system expands or contracts tube feet and acts as a hydrostatic skeleton. In conclusion, echinoderms have several unique features. The water vascular system consists of a series of canals carrying water, helping the organism with locomotion and feeding. Most adult echinoderms, unlike other deuterostromes, don't display bilateral symmetry but are radially symmetric. One of the structural features tying the echinoderms with the deuterostromes, like the chordates, is the endoskeleton.
All right. Well, so there's your dissection. Now that was college level dissection. So obviously I know you're not going to absorb all of what you just heard. Let's see. There was one other thing I wanted to show you. I'm not sure where it went, but while I have it here, I'm just going to see if I can pull it up. My internet works a little bit slower when I have it recording. Let's see. Okay. There we go. So I've shown you now the dissection of it, and you've seen video. Yeah, this is it. And you've seen video of certain parts of the life of a sea star, reproduction, and so forth. And so now I want to show it to you from the perspective of an animation. I think sometimes animations are very helpful because it's very clear. Everything else is out of the way. And so this is a short, less than 4-minute animation about the body plan of the sea star that I think will be super helpful for you. So let's watch this short animation video and look at the body plan of the sea star.
Under the surface, echinoderms are equally unusual. The sea star skeleton is nothing like our own. Just beneath the skin lies a latticework made up of thousands of bony platelets. They're woven together by minuscule muscles which can flex the arms in any direction. They have incredible strength and endurance. A special protein allows them to lock their arms in position effortlessly for hours, something our muscles could never do. Instead of a brain, echinoderms have a nerve ring, a living relay station. It acts to coordinate the movements of their arms.
You saw that in the dissection.
How do creatures built on such a simple design, so different from our own complex bodies, manage to survive and even thrive? Echinoderms move and feed like no other animals on Earth. They use remarkable organs, completely unique in the animal kingdom. Hydraulically powered tube feet. The tube feet of sea stars are inflated by water, drawn into the body through a single opening called a sieve plate. The water fills the 5 radial canals which run down the length of the arms, forming a hydraulic system. The water is stored in little muscular bulbs. When a bulb contracts, it forces water into the elastic tube foot, extending it. Muscles on the foot swing it in the direction the sea star wants to move.
We'll take a time out there. Just look at that. Look at the design of that. That water would be stored in muscular containers, that those would squeeze in order to make a foot extend, that muscles could be used to then rotate this leg in other directions. When I look at that, it's impossible for me to think that this is not designed by an intelligent creator. How anybody could think that goo was struck by lightning, beginning some life process, and that apart from any intelligence, that you're looking at just happened? That's crazy. Or as it says in Romans 1, that's just suppressing the truth that God has revealed in unrighteousness. We've talked about that. It's silly to think that this intricate, complex structure is not the design of an intelligent creator. That should be what runs through your mind as you see this.
Sea stars can move equally well in any direction, but they must coordinate the movement of thousands of feet. Used together, they have incredible strength. Sensory tube feet sweep over the tightly packed mass of shells, searching for any gap in the muscle's defenses. Settling on its victim, the sea star hunkers down and begins its attack. The first wave of the assault begins with the tube feet, which use hydraulic pressure to pry open any gaps in the mussel's shell. Next, the sea star deploys its most unusual weapon, its stomach, which moves out of its body to digest its prey alive.
Okay. Well, I think that was a pretty amazing animation. Let me go back here to full screen. All right, guys. Well, that was an interesting look into starfish, into echinoderms, right? So you got to see the animation where you could clearly see these systems. You got to see video clips where you got to see some of these life processes in action. And then you got to see a real life dissection of a starfish and what it really looks like on the inside of those things. So I hope overall that's a comprehensive or overall look at the body plan and life of starfish. So that's it for today. Don't forget to check Google Classroom and that you have a test on Friday. And I will see you guys later.